Shattered, but I'm not broken. Wounded, but time will heal. Heavy the load, the cross I bear. Lonely the road I trod, I dare. Shaken, but here I stand. Weary, still I press on. Long are the nights, the tears I cry. Dark are the days, no sun in the sky. Yet still I rise, never to give up, never to give in against all odds. Yet still I rise, high above the clouds. At times I feel low, yet still I rise. Sometimes I'm troubled, but not in despair. Struggling, I make my way through. Trials, they come to make me strong. I must endure, I must hold on. Yet still I rise, never to give up, never to give in against all odds. Yet still I rise, high above the clouds. At times I feel low, yet still I rise.
Forgot to do the most important thing, which was pray. Let's bow our heads, please. Father in heaven, we thank you for your goodness, your mercy, your grace. We ask that you be with us as we are here for this program this afternoon. Ask that you be with Tina as she brings a word for us, and we'll be careful to give you the praise, the honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
So, I just got a very big surprise as this was my supervisor at the Family Sunshine Center. Whew, okay, now nerves are even higher. So, my name is Tina Brooks, and as Miss Denise said, I was a counselor at the Family Sunshine Center for about 4.5 years. I was blessed to be able to start my practicum, my internships there, and then they offered me a position. One of the things that I found so honoring of being there is seeing the difference, because we get to see when someone comes in and they start as really being broken, and then we work with them. And then as they come through and they work, they're whole. And they're no longer victims, they're survivors. And that is one of the things that I found such a blessing in. So just a little bit about domestic violence. As you can see, domestic violence is a pattern of abusive and coercive behaviors designed to secure control over an intimate partner. Now, there's a difference between domestic violence and then just violence. Domestic violence is an intimate partner relationship. It is. It did. I tried it. I played with it. Oh, I think he's rebooting it. Okay, let's try it now. There we go. Gotta love electronics. They're supposed to make your life wonderful and easy until they don't. So many of the symptoms that we quickly want to call mental health symptoms are actually trauma responses. A lot of times when an abnormal event happens, being hurt is a multitude of different ways a person may feel loved and trusted. Many of the symptoms that we quickly want to add symptoms to or to make a diagnosis is nothing more than trauma. And I say nothing more. It's something that we don't want to add a label to because we don't want to diagnose them as bipolar or having something. They're going to have anxiety. They're going to have a depression. A lot of different emotional responses. You have people that are in shock, depression, sadness, anger, irritability, panic. You have just a multitude of them. And then you have some response, difficulty concentrating. I have that. Slow thinking, confusion, memory difficulties, uncertainties, disorientations. There's 3 different types. There's acute, chronic, and complex. Okay, so acute is a single distressing event. Chronic is long-lasting, kind of like, if you have an acute infection, it's something that comes on really quick, but a chronic one is one that sticks around with you for a while. Then you have complex, and that's varied and multiple traumatic events. We like to call that complex trauma because it's more than one event. Traumatic events, an overwhelming experience that exceeds our ability to cope. They see themselves as I'm hopeless, worthless. The world is dangerous. No one can protect me. I can't trust anyone. If I don't engage, they'll go away. No one can help me, so why try? And these are the 3 parts of the brains that we like to use. Lizard brain, which is the autopilot for the fight and flight. The mammal brain, which controls your emotions, your memories, your habits, your attachments. And then the human brain, the language, abstract thought, imagination, consciousness, reasoning, and rationalization. So a lot of you probably have heard of fight, flight, freeze, but we have a new one called fawn. Fawn is where you're a people pleaser. There's no boundaries, and there's a lack of identity. You kind of bond with the perpetrator. There are a lot of mitigating traumatic responses. Provide frequent breaks. If you're talking with someone who may have been a victim or has been experiencing, the very first thing is know that they need someone to understand. They don't want answers. They want someone to just listen because they haven't been listened to. Start with basic needs, offering some water, some food. Use physical activities. As you can see, I pace. Let them pace if they need to pace. engage the senses to help them connect to the present moment life. There's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique that we use. It's using your senses. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch, 1 thing you can taste. That's grounding. And then, of course, there's box breathing. Let's all try box breathing, because you can use box breathing anywhere at any time. So what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in and hold for 4 seconds. You're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. You're going to pause for 4 seconds. You're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. All right, so let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And if you notice, you start to feel some looseness. The worst thing that we can do is be judgmental. And we, as God followers, are not supposed to be judgmental. We're supposed to believe, listen, be compassionate, slow to anger. Use some phrases, helpful phrases. I'm here for you. Help me understand. What can I do? Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for talking to me. You're strong. One of the things about someone who has been in domestic violence is they've had no strength. It's been taken away from them. They've been controlled. There's gaslighting, which is as someone lies to you or tries to convince you that you're wrong. Sorry, y'all have to understand I'm fixing to get to a very, very hard part. Reasons people stay in an abusive relationship: distorted thoughts, fears, and wanting to save their partner. A lot of people say, I can change him. I can change her. No, you can't. They have to want to change. I'm not saying they can't change, but you can't change them. Children, family expectations and experiences, and financial constraints. Especially in today's society, it's hard on a one-person income. Especially a one-person income where there's children and you don't have the ability to provide everything for them. One in 3 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime, and 1 in 4 men, according to the new statistics by the Alabama Coalition Against Domestic Violence. In 2021, 69% of victims of family violence incidents reported to police were women and 30% were men. Officers are more at risk when they're responding to a domestic violence call. I hear this all the time. Why don't you just leave? Why don't they just leave? Domestic homicide happens because the person loses control, their temper, or they snap. If there is no physical violence, it can't be that bad. Let me tell you, most domestic violence starts with verbal, emotional. This is the cycle of violence. I'm not going to go over it in detail, but we know that there is an explosion, and then there's something that we call a honeymoon period, where they are just as sweet as they can be and give you everything. Oh, you like flowers, you want to go get your toes done, you want to get your nails done, you want to get your hair done? Absolutely. Here, take my card. You can go get what you want. And then you got the tension building. That's where we like to call walking on eggshells, where you're walking literally afraid to say the wrong thing because it's going to cause an explosion. And we're going to change. Okay. Power and control creates a power differential. Violence is a tool in a system of behaviors, and violence creates a constant state of fear for the victim and the pre-existing threat level. When both parties may have used violence, the incident must be assessed for the totality of the relationship. Now we come to the good stuff. Different forms of abuse: emotional, physical, sexual, financial. And there's also spiritual. That's something else that we're finding and we're seeing. Strangulation. I could not put this in here. And you'll understand why in a little bit. But if somebody told you that you are 750% more likely to become a homicide victim after the first time someone strangled you, do you think that you would leave? Probably consider it, right? That's something that we don't hear about very often. You are 750% more likely to become a homicide victim if you are strangled. Now, simple jar of pickles, right? Will you open that jar of pickles? Be careful, don't spill the juice on you. Y'all see how easy this is, right? It's supposed to be easy anyway. There we go. Oh, it had some plastic around it. Okay, my bad. I should have taken the plastic off. How many of you have opened a simple jar of pickles? Easy, right? Don't think nothing about it. 40 pounds of pressure to open pickles, to open a jar. 40 pounds. 20 pounds to cut someone's circulation or their airway off. So just that simple, things we don't even think about. Opening a jar, nothing to it. Half of that pressure is all it takes to cut someone's airway off. Then you have 7 locations in the throat area that can be damaged. A lot of times we don't see the immediate results of strangulation. Some of them may be hoarse. They're having a hard time talking. One thing we call is petechiae, which is the bruising or the blood vessels in the eye. Okay? You're not always going to have strangulation marks or hands around the throat and the bruising automatically. If you come across somebody that has been strangled or claims they have been strangled, encourage them to go to the hospital. Encourage them. Go with them. Hold their hand. Be with them. Because at that point, signs can show up later. Here's the new statistics for age groups. As you can see, starts as young as age 12, and this goes up to 65 plus. Does not leave anyone out. And they're saying at age 12, that's when they start dating. I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll go with it. But 12 to 17 years old. Look at who's got the highest percentage of reporting. 45 to 54-year-olds. Oh, nope, 55 to 64-year-olds. Yeah. 55 to 64-year-olds, 45.1%. Why do you think that 55 to 64 reports more than a 12 to 17-year-old? Maybe. They've also got more life experience. They know what possibly should or shouldn't happen. 12 to 17-year-olds, they don't want the attention. Then nobody's going to date them. Okay, so here's what you really came for. Here's my story of redemption, how God made me beauty from ashes. As a child, my parents divorced when I was extremely young. My dad was in the military, and he moved to Texas, and then he moved to California. So he was not really in my life. Financially, couldn't ask for anything without him giving it to me. So yes, physically he was not there. I had daddy issues. Daddy issues are real. Not just because I had them. I hear a lot of my clients that say daddy issues are real. So, do we have children in here? Oh, we got a small one down there, okay. All right, I'm fixing to be very, very vulnerable with y'all. Because if you don't hear how vulnerable I am, you won't hear the true story behind everything. I had daddy issues, got married. My husband was in the military. He came home one day and said, "Hey, I didn't re-enlist." What? He didn't talk to me about that. He just didn't re-enlist. Well, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to move. I got a job offer at Disney in Florida. Oh, people here at Disney at Florida, you should be extremely happy. Mickey Mouse gets old real quick. But I'd never been away from my family, really. So we moved to Florida, and I have been working since I was 14 years old. I had either taught dancing, and then when I was in high school and old enough to drive, I worked at a drugstore. I've always worked. He didn't want me to work. He wanted me to stay home. I got depressed, extremely depressed. So I go to the doctor. That afternoon, he comes in, and he's not asking anything. And I said, "So do you want to know what the doctor said?" And he said, "What did the doctor say?" And I said, these words are forever etched in my brain. I said, "The doctor said I was depressed." And he said, "Anyone who has to compare themselves to me ought to be depressed." Okay. So those words come out. Then I'm talking to my mom, and I can tell you exactly where I was, what I was doing. I was sitting in the bathtub, and I was talking to my mom, telling her what the doctor said, and she said, "You know what? Oh my gosh, my husband was outside the door. He was whistling." And she said, "He sounds just like your daddy." What do you think that did? Instantly. I was like, he's not going to hurt me like my daddy did. He doesn't care about me. He don't care about me. Anyone who has to compare themselves to me ought to be depressed. Every time I would talk to him, he would say something. He would say, "Did you understand what I said?" "Yeah." So I did the unthinkable. I got a job, and I was getting a lot of attention I wasn't getting at home, and I had an affair. Not something I'm very proud of. Let me tell you that. This is when the abuse really started. I was trying to do things right. You know, when I say do things right as I could be doing, didn't want him to move in with me. I tried to keep us his own place, my own place. However, because he was controlling me, he wouldn't let me out of his sight. So although he wasn't living with me, he was living with me. It started simple, started simply as verbal abuse, calling me stupid, other names. Oh, I should probably say, I was supposed to give a trigger warning. The last time I did this, somebody told me, give a trigger warning. So I'm just telling you, some content may be triggering. So the first time that he was physically abusive with me, my vehicle was overheating and the kids were in the car. So I pull over into a gas station and he grabs me by the hair of my head and he yanks me backwards and tells me I'm not going in the store to get my kids something to drink. I'm going in the store to get my kids something to drink. We're in Florida, Orlando, Florida. It's hot. I'm going inside to get my kids something to drink. You're not going in there. Oh, but I am. No, you're not. Grabs me by the hair of my head and he yanks me backwards. He had a handful of hair. I went in the store. As I went in the store and I was in line to pay, undercover police officer behind me. Don't look. Don't look around. Don't look suspicious. But I saw what happened. You want us to do something about it? Yes. Okay. So he said, get in your car, drive, act normal. Hard to kind of act normal, but act normal. And I'm going to pull you over. Okay. He did. 4 cars, 4 police cars, boxed me in, guns drawn. Get us all out of the car. My kids are in the car with us. I'm thinking, okay, that's a little extreme. He goes to jail. He's calling me, telling me it's my fault he's in jail. So I'm like, no, it's your fault. You put your hands on me. You shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. Well, you shouldn't have made me mad, yada, yada. I tell him, we're going through with this. If you want to be with me, you're going to have a psychological evaluation. I can't do crazy. Lord, did I not know? So go to the district attorney, tell her I want a psychological evaluation. I want him to go to anger management. Well, knowing now, if I would have known then what I know now, anger management and domestic violence doesn't help. So, and I want a community service. She goes and tells him everything I said. He gets out. I cannot keep him from coming back to my location because that is his address, where he had been receiving some simple mail, junk mail, but mail. But because it was his address, he had the right to come back. Everything rocks and rolls and everything's going well. He's doing his anger management and he's going to his community service and everything's going really well. Until my son was playing baseball and I was coaching his baseball team and it was getting dark and he pulls up at the ball field and he comes out onto the ball field where I'm coaching and I've got kids and tells me to get my home. And I'm like, I'm not going home. If y'all haven't noticed one thing, I am strong-willed. I'm not going home. Oh, you're going home. If you don't, you know what's waiting for you when you get home. Somebody called the cops. The cops came up there. I was done. I'm tired of this. Tired of it. Cops come there, and I'm like, look, y'all don't understand what it's really going to be like when I go home. And they're like, we'll get you to a shelter. And I was like, okay, fine. Kids are in the car. We go to my house. I have a police officer in my front yard and a police officer in my backyard. I'm in my house trying to get my stuff. They had already cleared the house. I go to grab my kids some clothes. When I come back out, there's an X with a knife sticking in the center of my countertop. Police officer in my front yard, police officer in my backyard. He came through a window. He wanted to let me know he was there. I start screaming and yelling, trying not to freak my kids out because, they're already freaked out. Why do we have cops? And trying to stay as normal as possible. And cops come in and usher me out. I go to the shelter, and I will say the shelter was nothing like what the Family Sunshine Center shelter is. I had no one there to help me, no one to guide me, no advocate, no one to tell me what to expect next. Could I call my family? Absolutely. Did I call my family? Yes, I did. My mom moved heaven and earth to get me away. Sent me money. I got a U-Haul. I loaded up what I could with the police officer in the house with me at this point, and I head back to Tallahassee from Florida. I get messages from him. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your kids. And I'm going to kill your mom. I know what he's capable of. I've lived with him now for, 6 months? I know what he's capable of. If you don't get home by such and such time, I'm coming up there. I hightailed it back. I didn't want my kids hurt. I didn't want my mama hurt. So I went back. And boy, did it go from bad to worse. Nine years. I did it for 9 years. 9 years. I left 7 times. 9 years. Because I thought that's where I was supposed to be. I thought that was my punishment. That's what God was punishing me because I had had an affair. Let me tell you something. God doesn't punish you that way. I would go sit in church, and I'd sit in the back pew, and I was filling a pew, literally, is all I was doing. Until God finally really got a hold of me. I thought I knew who God was. I had been in church the majority of my life. I had been baptized, but I really didn't know God. I didn't know him. I didn't know what it meant to follow him. I tried to get my perpetrator to go to church with me. I can change him. I can change him if I just love him hard enough, because he's never been loved. No, I couldn't change him. I couldn't. He had a son whose mother walked out on him October 1st, which is my birthday that year, and was gone for 7 years. I couldn't leave that little boy. These are the excuses I'm making up in my head. I can't leave this little boy because he's going to hate women because his mother's already walked out on him. Now here I am, the one that he calls mama, and I'm walking out too. I'm going to make him hate women. I can't do that. Excuses, that's what that is. irrational thoughts. Because let me tell you something. My best friend, God rest her soul now, was in an abusive relationship when she was 16, 17. I go get her, and I'm like, Tiffany, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I would never let somebody do this to me. Never say never. Guess who I called? Tiffany. Hey, girl. Guess what's going on? She's like, what? I tell her. She said, okay, what you gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, I'm here for you. You know that. You got a place. Well, she lives in Huntsville. So I was like, okay. So we're pushing on 8 years. There's been some physical violence. He had hit me with the butt end of a shotgun, dislocated my jaw. I can't tell you how many jobs I went through, because if there was even remotely a man that worked there, I was having relations with them, and I couldn't be working there anymore. I was in the medical field at that point. I was supposed to be in nursing school. Of course, I couldn't go to nursing school because he wouldn't let me go to school, because then that means that I would have been able to, what? Leave him even more faster. So, praying, God help me. Show me what I'm supposed to do. I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry. I mean, I'm repenting. I'm on my knees with tears. God, I'm so sorry. Show me the way out. Phone call came in. It was my mom. He answered the phone. Her response to him every time he would answer the phone is, hey, hole, let me speak to my daughter. Little did she know what was going on. Every time that happened, I got the fool beat out of me. So that night I was cooking dinner, and his food was touching. Food touching. He put his hands around my throat and strangled me. Strangled me. To the point I passed out. In that moment, as I'm leaning over the washing machine, begging for my life, literally, he says, I'm going to show you who's in control. Okay. I know who's in control. Please, just stop. And all I could see was my kids finding me. My kids being left with him. I come to apologize, make everything happy, go to that honeymoon phase. Next phone call comes in about 3 days later, and it's his son's mother, who we haven't heard from in 7 years. I want to talk to my son. And I'm like, oh God, this is my answer. This is what I've been praying for, because I didn't want to leave this boy with no mother. Sure enough, she comes back into his life. She starts being around him. Christmas Eve, day, I was driving home from Alabama back to Orlando, and my car started overheating, and I called him, and I was like, hey, I'm stuck on the turnpike, car's overheating. He's like, well, you're just gonna have to stay there and figure it out, because he's with the baby's mama and the baby. Well, not really a baby at this point, 10 years old. And I was like, okay. I figured it out. Went into the gas station. It happened to be one, because God just happens to make it happen right there at a truck stop where they had a hose, and the hose busted right on the top, so I could see where it was leaking from, and I just happened to have a screwdriver to take one of those little brackets off. Thank you. So I undo it, put the hose on, good to go. It's Christmas Eve day, $60 in my pocket. We had not bought a single thing for our kids for Christmas. He don't care. I said, okay, God, if I'm not supposed to be here, don't let him come home tonight. Guess what? He didn't come home. He didn't come home. So I leave. He's calling, and I knew if I did not turn off my phone and I talked to him, I'd go back. I turned off my phone. I didn't tell anybody I was leaving, but my kids, because they were in the car. Packed up just their important belongings. They had to have their Xbox. Can't go without the Xbox. Got their clothes, and I literally had a backpack like this full of clothes for me, and that's all I had. I hop in that car, and I'm driving. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with the location, but I-20, I take I-20 over to Birmingham, and then I'm hightailing it up 65 to Huntsville. And when I got on I-20, called my best friend. I said, hey, girl, what you doing? She's like, nothing much, wrapping Christmas presents. What are you doing? I said, I'm on my way to your house. And she's like, really? Yeah. Did you leave? I did. Okay. Can I talk to your daughter? Can I talk to Hope? That's my daughter's name, Hope. So, gave the phone to Hope. Hope's telling her everything she wants for Christmas. I want a doggy. No. We don't know where we're going to be living. No. I want a bicycle. I want a purse. Do y'all know my best friend went out Christmas Eve? Bought my daughter everything she asked for, down to the stupid little puppy that was battery operated, that would walk and talk and wiggle. Little did I know that. We woke up Christmas morning and I was really dreading it because I don't have anything for my daughter. God had provided that. $60 and a half a tank of gas for me to go from Orlando to Tallahassee. Now, I don't know if many of y'all are familiar where Tallahassee is, but Tallahassee to Huntsville is 3 hours, okay? That's usually about a half a tank of gas. It's usually a whole tank of gas for me to get from Orlando to Tallahassee. And I had $60 in my pocket, remember that. Made it up there and I still had $20 and a half a tank of gas. It was a minivan. And it never once overheated on me the whole way up there. So we get up there. Christmas morning, I called my mom and I was like, hey, Mom. She's like, Merry Christmas. I said, no, I got a Merry Christmas for you. And she said, what? I said, I'm in Huntsville with Tiffany. And she said, "You're what?" I said, "I'm in Huntsville with Tiffany. I left." "Are you going to stay gone?" I said, "I'm not going back, Mama. I'm not going back." She said, "That's the best Christmas present you could ever give me." So he found me a couple of times. I have moved 3 times in the middle of the night because he has located me, because I always had somewhere else to go, just in case. Got moved after being up there for 2 weeks with my best friend. She decided to go off the deep end, and she wanted to go out partying, and I just wasn't into all of that. I'm trying to get my life straightened back out. So I said, "You know what? I'm going back to Tallahassee. I'm going back." So I do. I go back. And he finds me there, puts sugar in my gas tank, slashes my tires. Little does he know, I have family. They got me new tires. And they got a new gas tank put in my car. So I like to throw those little tidbits in, because where Satan was trying, my family was provided by God. And he provided everything I needed. So, 4th grade, my daughter's in 4th grade at this point. I got a fantastic job working in a dentist office, which I said I would never work in anyone's mouth. Again, never say never. Did it for 12 years. But anyway, I get a phone call from my son, my older son, and he said, "Hey, Mom, I think you need to come home." And I was like, "What?" He said, "I don't know what made me do it." He said, "But I opened the bathroom door and Hope was about to slit her wrist." Okay. So I get home, sit down, talking to her, and I found out that he had been sexually abusing her. And told her if she said anything that he would kill me and make her watch. Got her into counseling, and I'm happy to say she is happily married to a man that only God could provide her, who is the strongest Christian man, who leads them. She has 3 beautiful children. Does she still have some issues now and then? Absolutely. But is she still in counseling? Absolutely. But do you know what she tells me on a regular basis? "Mama, if we wouldn't have went through what we did, I wouldn't be the person I am today." I'm happy to say that's my daughter. I hated guys. Sorry, men. But I hated men, really hated men. If I could have went to the nunnery, I would have. Really would have. Seriously considered it. And then this man comes into my life, and I'm doing everything I can to push him away. And my vehicle tears up, so I ask him if I can use his car to go to work. And it's Alabama freezing weather. I turn on the heater of his car, and his windshield cracks. And I'm like, "Oh my God, oh no, oh no." I literally make myself sick all day. Because I got to tell him. I'm on my way home, and I call him, and I was like, "Hey." He's like, "Hey, how's your day?" I need to tell you something." He's like, "Okay." I said, "Well, I kind of cracked your windshield." And he's like, "What?" I was like, "I kind of cracked popped your windshield. He's like, oh, okay, that can be fixed. I was like, huh? He's like, that can be fixed. Can you repeat that for me again? He said, Tina, it's only a windshield. It can be fixed. And I was like, you're not going to hit me? He said, I'm not going to raise my hand at you, Tina. I will never raise my hand at you. To this day, I've been married to him 12 and a half years. We've been together 15 and a half years because I did not want to get married. I wanted to make sure that I knew who he was. He's never raised his hand at me, but I will tell you, he has never heard my full story because he can't. He wanted to hear it one time when I was talking, giving my testimony one time. And he had to get up and walk out. And he held me that night and he told me, you will never have to worry about that with me. And I don't. I don't. Can you move me one screen, please? There we go. Oh, wait a minute. Back one. There we go. Isaiah 61:3. I believe that was the verse for this today, and very appropriate. To grant those who mourn in Zion, to give them a beautiful headdress instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the garment of praise instead of a faint spirit, that they may be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified. What does this verse mean to me? It reflects the ability of God's transformative power to take those things that are broken and barren places in our lives and use them to bring forth purpose, total and complete healing, and restore life as He means it to be. One of the things I love to say, I always wanted to be a nurse, but I couldn't handle people vomiting. Can't be a nurse if you can't handle vomit. But God always planted me in the direction of being a counselor. And I truly believe with every ounce of my being, it was so that I could take what Satan meant for evil and use for good. Because God knew before I ever knew what I was going to go through. But He knew He was going to have a way for me to get out. And then He was going to have a way for me to be able to share. So that is my story, my beauty from ashes. Are there any questions? Anyone want to ask anything? Feel free. I'm an open book. Yes, sir.
You had to be God all the way. 'Cause, I mean, ain't no way you were made without God. I mean, your faith was so strong with God. With all that going on, nothing but God with you.
Amen on that. Even when you don't see Him, He doesn't move. We move from Him.
The
But
more
he
he try to do you, the more strong you got.
Yes, sir.
And Lord finally gave you the strength to go on walking out the door.
Yes, sir.
God bless you and your family. I hope your future look brighter, and God keep on staying in it.
Thank you. He is definitely the center of my life now. I do have, okay, if you'll flip it to the next screen for me, please. There you go, the resources. If anyone is dealing with any form of abuse, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be physical abuse, okay? Because let me tell you something. We know it typically starts out as verbal, mental, emotional abuse, and then it progresses. Here's some hotlines for you. There's my phone number and my email. Feel free to reach out to me. Guys, that's one thing that I say, and the one thing that I'm going to miss about the Family Sunshine Center is the fact that I truly believe I was where I'm supposed to be because I was able to connect, because I could tell them, I know what you're going through. Don't know that our stories are the same, because they're not, but I know what it's like to survive. But I'm going to continue that mission. I opened my own practice. I had been doing my own, I had my own practice that was part-time, and then when this happened, I feel like God just says, go out the door. And I'll tell you how God has worked even more. Didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I wanted to move my practice from Tallahassee to Wetumpka because I had a lot of clients that were going to come with me, who wanted to follow me. 24 out of my 31 clients that I had at the Sunshine Center wanted to follow me. So I started looking for a place, and I get a phone call. I'm a peer support specialist with the police and the fire department out of Wetumpka. And the chaplain called me, and he was like, hey, you might want to go look at this place. And I was like, okay. So I go up there, and I look at it, and the guy says, oh, the door should be open. And I was like, it's not. He's like, well, the key's up on the top of the door frame. And I was like, I'm a little too short to reach it. And he's like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And I was like, okay. So he comes down, and anyway, I start talking to him and telling him about a little bit about what was going on and the reason why I was looking for a place. Only God. Man opens up to me about some things that had happened to him. And he said, Tina, and I'm going to try not to cry. What if I give you 3 months free rent to get on your feet? Sorry. Thank you. He said, I believe in what you're doing. So I'm in that location, and I saw my first client on Wednesday. So that's my information, creative counseling. And if there's anything I can do to help anybody, please reach out. Any more questions?
I have worked in that area also, and I've also been through domestic abuse. But we find back in 2013, we were working out of the Justice Center, myself and another young lady. So many times, our girls don't want to come forth to tell their stories because of the shame and the hurt that they're going through. So, I don't know, praying to God and having Him lead you and guide you in the right way is our alternative, but we can't get everybody that needs that help to talk. And it's a tragedy. Thank you for your story.
One of the things that I also do is I do this presentation for the police and fire departments. because I want the police officers to be able to ask the questions. I want them to ask the questions that when they go out on that call, that they want to ask, because I want them to be able to say, I've heard a story. I understand more. Because they're going out there and they get very little information, very little training in the academy on it. So that's one of the things that I'm really trying to do is to bring awareness wherever I can bring awareness.
I was going to respond to what Sister Vickers said. A lot of the young girls won't speak because we're not speaking, because I'm willing to share my story. But I think we have to create a safe environment and also let them know that we've gone through some of the things that they may be going through. So it's going to have to start with us. And I was just thinking maybe next year we can have a panel of women who've been through domestic violence or abuse and open it up that way.
One of the things that I've found out, especially in the younger age groups, whether it's especially men, but women, it's the shame that comes with it and the afraid of being judged. And that's the biggest thing. If you have someone that comes to you, do everything you can to just be compassionate and not judge them, because that's the quickest way they're going to shut down. Yes, sir. You've been waiting so patiently.
I have a little bit of gift trip in that we lived, long time ago, we lived next door to a couple. And every Sunday morning, as I was outside working, every Sunday morning, not just some, I don't know what happened during the week, but on Sunday morning, since I wasn't at work or at church, I could hear the family next door. And this lady, it's just the opposite of man doing so. She was screaming at him. After a while, you hear plates going, thrown. And it was the worst thing, and the neighbors all knew about it. It was a terrible thing, and this happened for years. And I didn't know what to do about it, and maybe if I'd known there was a hotline or whether there was a hotline in that day. But it got so that if we went up at that, near them in a meeting or something, if someone happened to ask him a question, he had to look at her first. If she smiled, he would answer. If she frowned, he wouldn't open his mouth. And then years came when he would sit down in a chair, his leg would just be jumping. And even today, if I think about it, I feel a guilt that there was something that I should have done, could have done, to help that situation. But he was such a nice person. In fact, I knew he was from New Orleans, and his family came early in the marriage, and the first day they were there, they found out that they were not welcome, so they never came back. In fact, I wished I could have given him a bus ticket back to New Orleans, but today, to this day, when I think about it, I feel a little bit of guilt that we did not do anything because we, number one, didn't know what to do to be a help to him.
Can I just say something about that, though? I don't want you to feel the guilt, because how can you give somebody something that you don't know? You can't. So that's what this is about. making people aware. So in situations like that, now if you did this tomorrow, I'd be, okay, now, yeah, you should have some guilt. But no, you can't give somebody something that you didn't know.
You said something earlier that I was concerned about because I have a nephew who has a very bad temper, anger management, and what do you do with someone who needs to manage their anger? He's not a Christian, so you said you didn't believe in the treatment, or just that it didn't work for your husband at the time?
No, I don't believe in anger management with domestic violence because they're different. They're different. Anger management is teaching you to how to control certain things, certain aspects. But domestic violence is something from within. Typically, we have found out that it's something that they've either seen and grown up with, they've experienced themselves, or low self-esteem. It doesn't matter how much you work with somebody that's got low self-esteem with anger management because they're still going to be angry because they still have low self-esteem. So if you want to do anger management, they need some counseling too to help work through what's causing them to be angry. Not just, I'm not saying anger management doesn't work. No, I'm not saying anger management does not work. What I'm saying is anger management with domestic violence, they have to work on themselves before the anger management can work because you have to figure out what it is. Go ahead.
So anger management helps the person to understand what's going on. I think all of us need to know how to manage our anger. All of us know. There's some of us, we get angry, but we don't react. And then there's some people who react. So anger management is helping you to figure out what's going on. Domestic violence is a different nature. The person who is an abuser, his mindset is totally different. Power and control is the thing that guides the abuse, not the anger. You know why? Because he can come to church and be as sweet as possible with everybody and control the anger. But when he gets home, he's abusive. So anger management and domestic violence are two different things. We never recommend anger management treatment for somebody who is a domestic abuser. We never recommend couple counseling for someone who is an abuser because some therapists, not every therapist is aware of abusive relationships, and that abuser can manipulate the counseling. And if it's the woman who's the victim, he's gonna rake her over the coals, and the therapist is gonna be on his side, and it's gonna be like, oh my God, should I have come here or not? So the person who has domestic violence or is an abuser, we recommend that they go through, what do we call it again? My mind went blank. But there's a special program that they go through for perpetrators. And the focus is on building empathy, because the abuser lacks empathy. And so they use cognitive behavioral therapy to help them work through that.
Sure, I'm glad you're here. Also, another thing with couples counseling, marriage counseling makes you 50-50 responsible in a marriage. You're 50-50 responsible. If you're in a domestic violence situation, it's not 50-50. Yes, ma'am.
What can individuals do to help people who are in domestic violence situations? Is there anything that we can do as sisters or whatever?
Absolutely. First thing is be empathetic. Listen. You know, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as we speak. So listen. If you don't understand it, don't say, I understand what you're going through, or you should do this, because you don't know. Listen, and then say, I'm going to walk with you through this. I'm going to help you find help. And then locate somebody. You got one right here that can get you into the, or give you the phone number to the crisis line, or you can call the hotline, look up the hotline, and they will direct them from there on what they can do to help and get help.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You see something going on, but you can't prove it. And then when you try and see by it, they always say, I'm all right and everything fine. But you know ain't all right. How you go about dealing with it then?
They're going to have to want to get help. But the more, on an average, victims leave 7 to 9 times. Okay? 7 to 9 times. Continue. Hey, I'm here to help you if you want help. Because you don't know. You don't. Go ahead.
I'm talking about children. Like,
Oh, children
yeah, about 15, 16 years old. I'm talking about.
that they're in the abusive relationship, or their kids and their parents are abusive.
They I don't know when I can't see inside the house. I know stuff ain't going right down in that milk.
Okay. I will tell you, if there is suspected domestic violence and children are present, you can call DHR. You can do it anonymously. You don't have to give your information, and then they can go in and they will speak to the children. I worked for DHR while I was getting my grad school, my graduation, my master's, that's what it was. And you don't have to know for sure. But if you suspect something, say something.
Well, I seen one time, I heard the man was telling the child, you don't go do this, I'm gonna take out on your mama and all this stuff, all stuff like that. I mean,
That's domestic violence. I would be willing to bet my life on that one.
I mean, you don't take out on the mama, and something out there, that's what I was saying, then next day everything fine. They sit on the pool like a family sitting right there on sunshine eating some ice cream and some cookies.
Yep. Because then they're in that honeymoon phase where everything is great.
On what you become.
I don't know, where was your husband during this period of time? Now, you were married, right?
We were, and I filed for divorce. He wouldn't file. I filed for divorce. There was a time that he came to my house to pick up our child, and perpetrator put a gun to his head, and I stepped in between. I laughed because my ex-husband said, I'm going to call the cops, and the perpetrator was like, go ahead, call the cops. Well, the perpetrator got arrested because he had a gun to somebody's head. But anyway, he was there. But he was not, how can I put this? He was there. He knew things were going on, but he wasn't willing to do anything. But he was abusive too, though. He just wasn't physically.
Oh, okay.
He was the one that told me that, if I have to compare myself to him, that I ought to be depressed.
Because it's interesting that you're having an affair, and you're living in your own home.
I had moved out.
Oh, okay, you had moved
Yeah,
out.
I eventually moved out, got my own place, and that's when I didn't want my perpetrator to come live with me, and we had 2 separate places.
Okay.
But then eventually, he ultimately moved in because he didn't want me to be alone because God only knows what I was doing in his
Yeah.
eyes.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks for that question.
Any further questions?
He is not in jail. My daughter did not want to prosecute. We went through the whole process, talked to her about it. The counselor talked to her about it. She did not. They didn't want to she didn't want to prosecute because it was going to be a he said, she said, because so much had happened. Sheriff's Department said they would take it on anyway, but my daughter said, as long as we're away and he leaves us alone, then she's okay with it.
Okay, another question.
This is just a comment. I know I've been in and out, so I just want to thank the pastor, whoever it was that invited you to come and share your redemptive story. This Family Sunshine Center, they've been here many different times, but it really connects, especially within the church family. Sometimes we think, well, what do I need to do to say to someone out there that's going through this, that, and other? But sometimes there are church members, even now, that are experiencing it may not be a physical abuse type scenario, and it could be people, as you talk about, that age bracket that's been in the system, not in the system, church is not a system now, okay, but they've been here for many, many years, and they may look wonderful, dress wonderful, and all of the other things, but we all, I just want to say, we all need each other. And even if it's just a pat on the shoulder and say, sister, I see, or brother, I see something different. I may not, ask what is going on. I just say, I see something different in you, and I'm praying for you. Just that word of encouragement will go a long way.
Absolutely.
Even if we don't know what to do, and we
Absolutely.
don't want to get into the business of what's happening in the home.
Prayer
Thank
is a powerful, powerful thing. Powerful. My mom will tell you to this day, her daughter is back. She did not recognize me back then, but her daughter is back, and it was because of the power of prayer.
I think this will be our final question.
I want to thank you for that information, because I was in another church, and we had a member. She and her husband attended our church, and everybody knew that she was being abused. She would come to church with sunglasses on, and you just knew. I mean, she was always right up under him. He wouldn't let her move, basically. But nobody knew what to do. And so even if it's an adult, can you still call somebody and say?
You can't call DHR for an adult.
I mean, can you call the police and say, I think that there's some abuse going on?
You can ask for a welfare check. You can always call for a welfare check, especially if you see them, like she came to church today and she had glasses on, you knew that her eye was swollen or something, you could call for a welfare check and the police could go out there.
Okay. It's just that we never knew what to do. Everybody knew that she was being abused, but nobody knew what to do.
Reach out to her and say, I'm here for you if you need something, non-judgmentally. That goes a long ways.
Thank you so much, Tina. Let's give her a hand. Great job. Thank you. All right. There's something over there? That's her business. That's her business. All right. Thank you so very much. and I'll talk to you all, three of y'all. I'll talk to three of y'all after this. No, it's three of them. I saw three of them over there. All three. We are equal employee, equal. I see it. I see. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to the Family Life team, and want to thank Shannon. You asked my wife and Denise invited Ms. Tina to come to share today, so we are very appreciative of her coming, and we thank you for your story, your being vulnerable and enough to share with us, and so we can have some insights on things that may take place in the future, or we may see something, we can be able to say something intelligently. Thank you so kindly.
One of the things that, for me, that resonated, of course, this is Domestic Violence Abuse Month, but I was interviewing Tina for a position. What, baby?
Speaking to the mic.
I was interviewing Tina for a position at work, and she said something that, so I've worked there a little over a year and a half now, and she said something in the interview, and I looked, and afterwards I said, "You were abused?" Because you don't know. So there's not a look. There's not a ABC out there to say that this person looks like they're abused. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. So when she said that, I was like, "Oh, please come to our church." And thank you all for coming. But what for me, and I think Cecilia said, we need to be more transparent. I wish the young people were here, especially the teenagers, because that can happen as a teenager. These young men, putting their hands on you, and you think you want to be with the football or the basketball star and all that kind of stuff. So people take that abuse because they think, it's okay. So again, Tina, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you all for staying by, and let us have closing prayer.
Let's stand, please. And we also thank Ms. Norman for stopping by as well and sharing some insights with us as well. Let's bow our heads together as we pray. Gracious God, we are thankful for the fact that you give us information and inspiration so that our lives can be transformed. We thank you for the story that we have shared, as was shared with us today. And Lord, we just ask now that you would empower us with Ms. Tina's story so that we can be aware and more cognizant of activities that may be around us. And we pray that you would help others who may be in this predicament to be able to find their beauty from their ashes as well. Grant us now safe travels as we go to our different homes, and may we arrive and find all things well. And then bring us back to the next appointed time that we should come together to worship, to encourage, to fellowship, and to share your love. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.